I'm Mike of SawDustNewbie.com, and I've had a few requests to show off my shop, so here we are. I spent the last few days getting it cleaned up, reorganized, which proved to be a challenging task, but I think it turned out well. Take a look for yourself. So over here I've got my table saw. It's a 1980s, not quite certain of the year specifically, but it's 1980s vintage Craftsman contractor table saw. It has the Delta T2 fence on it that I added last year. That has been a great addition. If anybody has an older saw like I do, seriously consider putting that on there. It will really extend the life of your saw. Over here, as part of my cutting area, is my chop saw. That really doesn't get used a whole lot anymore. My table saw does most of the precision work. If I need to do something that's really just too long for the table saw, or I don't really care about the precision, I'll come here to the chop saw. Next to the chop saw is my joiner. It's a Delta benchtop model. Would not recommend that to anybody. That is actually the top item on my list to get replaced, to get something more of a robust joiner. So hopefully maybe within the next year or two I'll be able to replace that. It is right next to the chop saw, which is on a wheeled cabinet, so if I've got a longer board I can move that out of the way and be able to bring a longer board through. Usually if I do have a longer board, I also have a rolling pin stand where the chop saw is. It's the dust collection system, the bandsaw, and my new sharpening station. Also have some hardware storage, some tool storage over there. We got a toolbox here that actually probably needs to be gone through as well. There's some junk in that. But the sharpening station was actually my most recent addition to the shop area. The Wolverine jig that's attached to the grinder kind of made it necessary to have a dedicated system. The first bench, as you can see under it, has my planes and my lathe tools and a few other odds and ends being stored below that. The bench itself was given from my dad. He had it in his old garage, and when he moved, he didn't have room for it, so I got it. On the workbench is my first drill press, little benchtop Craftsman. Next to that is my new lathe. Got that back in October and I've been loving it. Behind the lathe you can see the famous or infamous, however you want to call it, chisel rack that I built last winter. And above that, the screwdriver collection that I turned the handles on that lathe. And various tools stored behind that bench, as well as some hardware storage. Next to the bench is more storage, this gray cabinet. I'm actually going to be getting a second gray cabinet. This one was actually in my grandmother's garage, came from my dad's garage, and there is a second one that matches it. That's in my uncle's garage, and he doesn't want it anymore, so it's coming over here probably this spring. To round out the storage I have currently, this white wall cabinet, that's actually going to come down. It's kind of redundant, especially once I get the second gray cabinet in. I just don't need that anymore. Here you'll see my planer, and the stand it's on is actually a rollaway stand because the planer is definitely not usable where it's at right now. It gets pulled out into the middle of the garage floor, and I can position it so that I can run a full 8-foot length board in there. The stand I built after I got the planer, and it's a dual purpose. It actually stores all my router bits, supplies. As do the drawers below here do. And then here you can see one of my routers and a few more odds and ends for it. Next to that is my trusty router table that I built about 6 years ago. It's been a great asset to the shop. I've used it probably more than anything else in the shop at this point. Though I'm probably looking to upgrade it here in the next year or so. I'll be building another one. Next to the router station is my second drill press. That's an old Grizzly that my dad found at a garage sale, and he gave it to me. It was a little bit rough condition when I first got it, but I was able to clean it up and get it functioning again. And that may or may not replace the benchtop drill press. I have not quite decided yet, but for now, this probably gets more use than the other one does. Right here is probably where I spend most of the time in the shop. This is my outfeed table, but it's also my assembly workbench, whatever table. As you can see, I've got a small vise on there. Would love to get more of a bigger woodworkers type vise, but just the way that the bench is built, it wouldn't support it. One of these days, I might be able to find the space to build a Rubo type workbench or split top type workbench that would allow for bigger vices. But for now, this is what I have. As I said, I spend probably most of my time here. As you can see, I've got some wood here for my next project all glued up, ready to get started trimmed up and planed down. And below that is a bunch of storage. And I actually do have the air compressor attached to some copper pipe that there's fittings on either end of the bench to allow for air hoses to easily be attached. And I can have 2 at a time. Below that also is some storage, and it's a mess there because whatever I'm working on at the time just gets thrown under there. There really is no organization. Don't really intend to be any real organization under there. We'll finish off here with one final pan of the shop. I thank you all for taking your time to watch the video. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to comment on my blog at SawDustNewbie.com. And with it being New Year's Eve, I hope everyone has a good New Year. And may it bring many blessings to you all. Happy New Year.